You ever get a letter in the mail that's so out of left field, so absurd, that for a second you think maybe it's some kind of elaborate prank? That's what hit me one rainy Thursday afternoon while I was sitting on my porch drinking cheap coffee and going through bills I didn't want to pay. There it was, official letterhead fancy, legal jargon, and right there, in bold notification of property transfer to homeowners association upon deceased owner's passing. I nearly choked on my drink. Now let me give you some context. My folks bought this house back in 1980. Back then, Maple Hollow was just trees, cows, and a gas station that still had the old rolling number pumps. It was rural, simple, and definitely not part of any HOA nonsense. My dad was the kind of guy who poured concrete with his own hands and refused to let anyone tell him what kind of mailbox he could install. So the idea that he or my mom, who was sweet but avoided confrontation, like it was the plague, would willingly sign something that tied their house to an HOA. That sounded about as likely as them joining a pyramid scheme. Dad passed in 2012. Mom followed in 2018. I handled the estate, cleaned out the attic, dealt with the will, paid off whatever bills were left. My sister had moved across the country years ago and wanted no part of it. So the property passed to me fair and square. It was quiet for a while. Then 4 years later, boom, this lawyer sends me a letter saying the HOA expected the house to be sold to them based on a verbal agreement. Verbal agreement. No documents, no signatures, just supposed conversations with previous board members that no one could name. Now listen. I don't have a sentimental bone in my body when it comes to that house. It's old. It needs repairs. I've got a place 2 towns over with better plumbing and a working garage door. But I don't take kindly to being manipulated, especially by a bunch of clipboard-wielding suburban tyrants who think because they've got matching lawn flamingos, they own the block. I called the lawyer's office, left messages, sent emails, even walked in one day, but the receptionist told me he was unavailable. So I did what any rational, slightly petty man would do. I sent a certified letter demanding any written agreement proving this deal. Still no answer. So I decided to up the ante. I drafted a second letter, this one to all the houses in the neighborhood, told them that starting the following week construction would begin on a small-scale wastewater treatment plant on the property. Included some buzzwords like eco-friendly runoff and government-funded pilot program. I even rented a bulldozer for a day and had it hauled onto the front lawn. It just sat there. No engine, no movement, just a big yellow warning shot. It didn't take long. Next morning, 8 a.m., my phone lights up. HOA board member, sputtering about zoning violations, property value, smell complaints. I told him flat out, your lawyer won't talk to me, so I figured I'd use my land the way I wanted. Isn't that what free ownership means? That must have shaken something loose, because 45 minutes later, I get a call from the elusive lawyer. And I swear to you, he sounded like a man calling from inside a hostage situation. I told him I was done playing phone tag. He and whoever he needed to bring better meet me at the property at 3 p.m. that day. Bring a laptop, I said, and don't show up empty-handed. Then I called my guy, Mark, my attorney. Known him since college. Corporate family law, real estate, you name it, he's done it. Total no BS type. I told him to meet me there and bring a printer. Guy, at 2:55 sharp. We're sitting outside. Folding chairs, portable table stack of paperwork. HOA crew pulls up lawyer in a wrinkled suit, 2 board members. One looked like he escaped a retirement home. The other gave off middle school principal with a God complex vibes. We go through introductions, and I cut to the chase. You want this property. I want to sell it. But I'm not handing it over based on bedtime stories about what my dad supposedly said. Their lawyer starts in, as conveyed by past board members, it was the understanding that your father intended to transfer the property to the HOA upon his and his wife's passing. I raise my hand. Stop. Documents. Do you have anything in writing? He hesitates. The older board guy just kind of shrugs, like he forgot why he was there. Mark leans forward and says, "Let me be clear. Without written consent or financial consideration, you have no enforceable agreement. What you're asking for is theft by implication." The principal-looking one tries to puff up his chest and says, "We were under the impression this would be resolved amicably." "Great," I replied. "Then amicably buy it at my price." You could have heard a pin drop. I laid it out. They pay all closing costs. Full ownership transfer. No liens, no title issues, nothing shady. They get the land, I get the check. The only thing standing in the way was their approval vote, which I gave them 48 hours to get. And just to really push it home, Mark printed a preliminary agreement on the spot. Laid it on the table. "Here's your deadline," he said. "Otherwise, we start digging." Turns out, their next board meeting was the following evening. Word got out fast that things got heated. One of the HOA members, who happened to be a lawyer himself, apparently stood up mid-meeting and told them they had zero legal standing and were risking a public relations disaster. That night, I'm sitting at Pub 99, eating wings with Mark when he gets a text. Board approved the purchase. Full price. No negotiation. No counter offer. By 10:15 p.m., I was signing the final sale documents right there at the bar. Mark filed them online over a pitcher of beer. Next morning, wire transfer confirmed. My parents paid $28,500 for that place back in 1980. I sold it for over $700. 27 times the value. Most of it's going toward my kids' college and trade school. The rest I split with my sister for her own kids. You know what Dad would have been proud. He never liked HOAs, but he loved a good hustle, and I think he'd appreciate how I played that hand. And no, I never had any intention of building a sewage plant. But sometimes you gotta play the game with the tools you have, and mine just happened to be a rented bulldozer and a lot of creative energy. I still drive by the place sometimes. Looks like they turned it into a park. Or maybe a garden lot. It's peaceful now. I don't feel bitter, just satisfied. I stood up for myself, didn't fold under pressure, and I walked away with more than money. I walked away with peace of mind. But let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, Would you have pushed back or walked away? Would you have played hardball or just let it go to avoid the mess? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I want to hear your take. And hey, if you've ever gone toe-to-toe with an HOA, especially over something shady like this, tell your story. Let's get it all out in the open. Because if we don't speak up, these little empires just keep growing. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the ride, and subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and calling out the nonsense. See y'all in the next one.